What's good, YouTube? Jay Lee here. Got another Northwest podcast for you. I'm going to see if I can articulate this correctly. One of the things that I really hate the most about when it comes to attraction and women and things like that, one of the things I hate the most is the female ego, and particularly when it relates to women who always assume that guys have crushes on them. They always assume that like you want to get with them. Like just it's just like an automatic assumption. Like it's just and what's funny is they'll like, and I don't know if delusion is the right word, probably, but they'll kind of delude themselves and it's almost like a force. It's almost like a black hole where you're like sucked into it. You're like, dang, I really wasn't trying to give away the impression that I'm really into you. Yes, you might be attractive, and I might be like, see, the thing is like women are like very sensitive. Women are very sensitive to like body language. They're very sensitive to almost hyper ultra sensitive to like social cues and things like that. And I that's one of the things that I learned that very acutely when I started gaming in like 2018. I started going out and gaming, and there's this thing called signal theory. It's called signal theory. And basically, what that is like an indication in nature of a certain thing. So, like a wolf, when he's staking out, or even a lion or whatever, when they're staking out like a pack of zebras or a pack of buffalo or something, they're looking for signs, they're looking for signals of weakness. And it's a thing in nature. And I often equate nature. I used to, growing up, I loved National Geographic shows. Whether it was like birds or the ocean or mammals or this. I've always loved those kind of shows as like documentaries because it's just very interesting to like check out animal behavior, the behavior of the ecosystem, life forms, all that kind of stuff has just always interested me. And at the end of the day, we are mammals. At the end of the day, we are quote unquote animals to an extent. Although, if you listen to my channel a lot, you'll hear me talk about how we should be above that. And I do believe we should be. We shouldn't be slaves to our base animalistic nature. That's one of my biggest complaints about females is they're just so caught up in that animalistic type of behavior, right? But anyway, I think humans are more spiritual than that. We should live for higher values. We should live for higher, you know, more traditional. When I say traditional, obviously I mean moral values, such as family and real love and things like that. But let's be honest, who's doing that out there? Usually it's an afterthought. Usually it's a settling type of thing. Oh well, I hit 30, now it's time to settle down and pretend I have family values, when really you're just marrying a guy for his money, or the guy is just earning money so that he can afford a family, afford a wife, and if he didn't have the money he wouldn't get a wife. And that's the real truth about most of the arrangement when we're talking about families and houses and neighborhoods and all this stuff that we see every day when we go outside. It's really based and founded upon the guy's ability to provide. And we see that in nature as well. For instance, a bird makes a nest. A bird makes a very nice nest, and whichever bird has the nicest nest, he's the one who probably gets chosen by the female. Whichever bird has the brightest flowers and there's birds that dance and can display the flowers and things like that. And you'll see that in these nature shows, and you're like, wow, that really is just like the humans. Like that, we do the same thing. Why does a guy buy a really nice car? Yes, he likes the car, he's attracted to the car, it's cool, but a lot of it has to do with his persona. A lot of it has to do with his personal self-image. He's buying the car because he thinks it makes him cooler. It's all part of his personality. It's part of his self-identity, and a lot of that is linked to sexuality. A lot of that is linked to, mostly subconsciously, but a lot of it, is like, guys know. If you ask a guy, hey, why are you going out and buying these $100 shoes? Why are you, dressing up and doing this and that? A lot of it is just to get girls. Really, when you when you exit the matrix and to such an extent, and I'm not suggesting going full MGTOW, but even MGTOW guys will tell you, when you exit that whole kind of rat race, that whole kind of keeping up with the Joneses, or that whole kind of competition where you're trying to improve yourself, and when you exit that, you realize, like, gosh, 90% of my motivations there were really for, not for myself necessarily, but to get women, right? So this is a motivation behind a lot of guys behavior, and you'll see it in nature, and it's something called signal theory, which is in nature. I like paying attention to nature shows, and something that I learned when I started gaming in 2018 was something called signal theory. And what I learned was that before I was going to approach a girl, I would read her body language. She saw me, I saw her, and then there's like a quick couple seconds where you have to like determine her body language. And a lot of times girls will give off signals. They'll give off little body language, subtle energy, vibe type of cues and signals where you're like, okay, I think she wants to be approached, or based on her mood, or based on the way she looked at me, and it's not always correct, but I'd say 9 times out of 10, when I would take those extra little 3 seconds to like gauge and like, is this the type of girl that I can approach? Most of the time it would turn out to be where, like, yeah, this girl's cool because I read her energy. I had like 3 seconds to 4 seconds to read her energy, and she seemed she seemed like she had positive, open energy, and 9 times out of 10 I was right. And most of the time, I didn't game for too many years. I gamed a couple of years, and most of the time it ended up not working. But there was still good interactions. It wasn't like a bad interaction where she was like, ew, get away from me, or like, I have a boyfriend, don't talk to me, or something. It was just good interactions where like I would end up having good conversations with these girls, and it was just a positive experience to where, like, I realized, yeah, because she has an open personality, because she has an open, vibe, that's why it was like that. She seems like a decent kind of girl. Now that doesn't mean that female nature is not female nature. Just because a woman's not actively, calling you a creep, or actively like, oh, get away from me, like, that doesn't mean that, like, she's not hypergamous, or it doesn't mean that she's not looking for a guy with money. It doesn't mean that she's not solipsistic or selfish, or all the things we talk about in the red pill community. It doesn't mean that. It just means that she happens to be a more open type of person, a more not susceptible, it's not the right word, anyway, she just happens to be receptive. That's it. She happens to be more receptive to a guy trying to hit on her, whereas, like, a lot of times if I didn't, or I misread the cues, or I didn't read the cues correctly, I would go up and have a bad experience. The girl would like totally ignore me, or she'd be like, oh, get away from me, I don't want to talk to you, or just like put her head down and walk away from me, or kind of an embarrassing situation, or a situation that, like, I don't like girls like that. I hate girls like that. Like, I shouldn't use the word hate. I shouldn't say I hate girls like that. I hate girls, but like, what I mean is, like, I hate those type of experiences because it's a bad experience. So, like, the least you could do is just be like, no, thank you, I'm not interested, or like kindly, and it's like, I have no problem with that. Like, okay, I appreciate it. I tried to, hit on you. I tried to talk to you. You weren't interested. Thank you. Bye. Right. That's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I say all this to say that, like, I picked up that women are very cued in to body language dynamics and energy dynamics, and they're very cued into vibe, right? So what I learned is that they pick up on your, and it's really to their detriment, but it's also to your detriment in the example that I'm talking about, because when a woman is narcissistic and egotistical, and I would say most of them are, to whatever extent, because they really do believe the world revolves around them, and subconsciously, if you think about it, like, guys are doing all this stuff. I mean, like, guys are spending their whole lives to make a fortune so they can get women. Like, so it kind of leads to that. Like, you kind of jump to that conclusion where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense, that women would think, yeah, the world revolves around me, the world revolves around my vagina, the world revolves around sex, which is why I shouldn't give away sex, which is why I should manage my sexuality to where it's most advantageous to me, and I can make the most money and get the most benefits from it. Totally makes sense, right? So it stands to reason that they would be solipsistic, egotistical, and selfish in that way. However, what I'm talking about specifically is, like, when women are almost energy vampires, in the sense that, like, they will assume that you're, like, you have a crush on them, or you're really attracted to them, and they'll just assume it, and it's an egotistical thing. And you're like, and sometimes it's like you might, and sometimes it's almost like a tractor beam, or it's almost like a magnet or something, where, like, you almost actually have to say something or do something that seems like, oh yeah, this guy is one of these beta guys. He's a nice guy, quote unquote, who, like, isn't good with girls, and they just, like, automatically assume that about you, particularly if you're just, like, a decent person. Like, particularly if you're just, like, a kind person. Like, I like nice guys. I like kind people. You know what I mean? I like people who aren't toxic, or people who aren't narcissistic. It's just that women don't. Women are attracted to the selfish dudes. Women are attracted to the bad boys, which is fine. And there's periods in my life where I learned how to be that guy. I learned how to be the bad boy. I learned how to be the selfish, cocky bad boy, and it got me laid. It got me a bunch of women. I'm not necessarily recommending that, because it also brought me a lot of problems. It also brought me a lot of heartache, right? I would recommend just being yourself. I would recommend, I know that's an old cliche, oh, just be yourself, but it's true. And, like, yeah, you're going to be lonely, because if you're a nice guy and that's who you are in yourself, which I would prefer, like, the world is short of kind people. The world is short of honest, righteous, kind people, right? So I would recommend anybody to be like that. Like, don't pretend to be about, like, it works. It worked for me, but it's like, you're entering into a time. If you do that, you'll waste a lot of years of your life, because it requires commitment, and it's almost like acting in a way. So sometimes you can feel phony, you can feel fake, but it's like, the hard and fast life is just that. It's hard and fast. Like, you miss out on so much other things. You miss out on the enjoyment of life. You miss out on, it's restful and it's peaceful to be yourself. And particularly if you're a kind, nice person, like, just be that. Like, seriously, be a kind, nice person. Like, I treasure kind, nice people. Like, they're, genuine, real, honest kindness from people is so rare. It seems like most people are, like, haters, or most people are, like, toxic in some way. Most people are, like, angry at life, or, like, it's weird, particularly as you get older, you realize, dang, people really get off, people really get damaged, people really get distorted from real humanity. You look like a kindergarten, it's all these little cute kids, and they're all just, like, fresh and pure, and, like, unassuming and innocent, and, like, it's fine. Like, you're like, great. I was in college back in my early 20s, and I worked in a daycare at the college, and, like, these kids are just, like, cute and nice, and, like, totally, they don't have any guile in them. They're not, like, trying to manipulate anything. They're just, like, simple, and you're like, wow, this is such a breath of fresh air to be around these little kids, because they're just so genuine. And then as you get older and you're around adults, it's like, ugh, it's just toxic. It's like a mess. People are so damaged, right? So I always say, like, just be kind, be a good person, and I also say, the closer you get to God, the closer you get to God, the more real you are, really, because it's like you can't hide anything from God because He knows all your stuff. And people are always trying to run game, even on themselves. Like a lot of this self help motivation stuff is really just self delusion. You're tricking yourself into thinking you're an alpha by self affirmations, and like tricking yourself into thinking you're more confident than you. And I'm not saying some of that stuff can't be helpful or it can't work, or like, I learned how to have self esteem, and I learned how to like be confident in myself and to be more like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not assuming. It's on the tip of my tongue. What's the word I'm looking for? To be more. Anyway, to go after what you want. Essentially, there's a word for that. It's not aggressive, but what's the word? Anyway, to go after what you want and to speak up and to learn how to like have charisma and like talk to people, and there's merit there. There really is. There's merit there. And there's a time and place for that in life to where you can learn those social skills and things like that. But you don't want to be fake either. You want to be yourself. You want to be who you are. You want to be genuine, and you want to be real. So I'm totally way off on a tangent as usual, but yeah, I dislike when a woman is assuming that like, and yeah, 9 times out of 10 she's attractive and she's hot, but a lot of times these type of women are like the slutty type of women. Like for some reason it's almost always they're always slutty. Like there's attractive women that are just less slutty. There's very attractive women, and it doesn't mean that they don't sleep around per se, but a lot of these type of women who assume that you like them, or like jump to the conclusion that you're like you have a crush on them or something like that. It's this kind of like self delusion, but it's like this undeserved sense of self confidence that they have, and like it's just solipsism, like, oh, the world revolves around me and I'm a woman. It's like, really, it's kind of this innate belief that like by birth they're just better than men, by birth, because guys are doing so much for them, and like they really believe and think that they're God's gift. And it's just like it's actually very much a turnoff, because one thing that like is really attractive to me in a woman is humbleness, and I never see it. But a woman who's like not self-assuming, who like even a woman who's like maybe has a little bit of low self-esteem, like for some reason that's just so attractive to me, because it's like it's almost genuine. You know what I mean? It's like this woman is almost real. She's almost real. She's almost genuine. She's almost realistic. Women who are just like, they walk around with that like smirk and like this little confidence, this little like perky, like, yeah, the reason why they're like that. It's because they know they have power over men with sex. They know that they have power over men. And that's one thing that women who hit the wall lack. And this is why a lot of women who hit the wall become very bitter. This is why a lot of women who lose their looks in their 40s, in their 30s and 40s, really start to hate men, because they used to get all kinds of attention, and now they don't anymore, and they know that all they have to offer is their looks, and they know that like the reason why they're not getting the attention is because they're losing their looks, and it's their currency. They're losing their currency. Which is sexuality. So a lot of times they get bitter, and instead of just being like taking it in stride, and some women take it in stride. It's just rare though. Well, I don't know if it's rare. I think that like a lot of times what happens is like once a woman gets married and she has kids and stuff, she kind of just starts to get a little bit more real in a way, I guess, or she's just not out. She's not out there anymore. So she's just at home a lot of times raising the kids, whatever. And she doesn't put herself out there anymore like that. And it could be like 10, 20 years. And then like you never hear from these type of women again, because a lot of times once a woman gets married, she's living in a home with a guy or whatever, and they got a family or whatever, like all that ends, all that like boastful, sometimes, or I would say a lot of times, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes a woman is still, like in the example of Ayesha Curry, Steph Curry's wife, how she was all like, "Oh, I just wish guys would lust after me." And she did this publicly too, and I was so embarrassed for Steph Curry. I was like, man, and it is such an example of female nature too. It's like, well, he's a little bit of a nice guy too, so it's like he's kind of short, and he's not like an alpha bad boy like LeBron James kind of is. Anyway, like, so it kind of stands to reason that Ayesha would like long to, or like kind of lust after like straying a little bit, because women want their cake and eat it too. They want guys to look at them and like, oh, I know all these guys want to have sex with me. Every time I go out, guys are oogling me, guys are doing double takes. I mean, imagine the ego boost. That doesn't happen for guys unless you're like crazy good looking guy, but like the average guy, it's just not happening. And yeah, like the average woman, it's not quite the same either. But still, women in the back of their mind know that, like, yeah, I could probably have sex with like most guys, even if I'm not great looking, because it's just there's that difference. Guys are not hypergamous. Guys are not the same as women, where we have a different makeup when it comes to sex, and that's to men's detriment a lot too. Like guys need to have higher standards, and I've always said that. But it just is the way. It just is what it is. But a lot of these women, they want their cake and eat it too. And so like a lot of what was going on with Ayesha Curry was she was starting to gain weight, and she started advance in age. And then there's a certain point where you start to feel sad because you're not getting the attention that you used to get. And a lot of times they start lashing out, like Mia Khalifa, right? She's lashing out because guys are not, well, first of all, the whole world views her in a certain light, and that's not good for her, even though she put herself in that light, which is insane that she's complaining about. And she got rich off of that move as well, right? So it's just like you can't win. Like, what do they want? They want to be respected and revered and sexualized, and they want to profit off of that, and then they want no stigma to come from that. They want all the respect in the world. It's like they want everything, and you're just like, they want everything but to work hard, right? They want everything to do what a man does, even though they claim that they can do what men do, right? They claim I'm just as strong and independent as any man, blah blah blah. Even though they really don't want that. They just want things for free. They want to go out and just sell themselves, sell their bodies and make $1 zillion and then have no consequences from that, right? But it's just bonkers. And then when that doesn't happen, they blame men and they're like, "Oh, I was a victim," and blah blah blah. It's like, you sure didn't look like a victim when you were doing in that video. You looked like you were happy and enjoying it. You look pretty orgasmic, right? So, but anyway, yeah, man, that's just one thing that really kind of grinds my gears, like. I'm just like, I'm just going about my business. You know what I mean? Like I'm just, and one thing too is you have to like avoid that. You have to like make sure you're looking the other way, because if you look anywhere in their general direction, they're just gonna like assume that you're oogling them or something like that, and like, and then on the flip side too, it's like sometimes you want to admire the beauty of a woman. Sometimes you're like, man, it's like, I'm in this room with a hot woman, and it's like sometimes you just want to like, not in a creepy way or like a harassment type of way, but sometimes you just like, like if you're around a cool car, like people gather around cool cars and like, wow, this is a cool car. Look how beautiful this car is. Like this old, remodeled car or something. Like there's something to be said for aesthetic beauty, right? And it's like, I don't know, it's hard. Some women deal with that in a very quality way. Some women like take it in stride and they're like, yeah, I know I'm attractive, and they're kind of humble about it in a way. It's rare, but I've seen it. A lot of times though, it's just this weird thing where they're just like, it's almost like a gloating thing where they gloat over you and like, haha, like I'm attractive, and it's like they never grew up. Like it's like, you know, yeah, we all know you're hot. We all know that guys want to have sex with you. Like, we get it. You know what I mean? Like, we totally get it. But you don't have to like have this, cocky smirk on your face about it. You don't have to be arrogant about the whole thing. Like, we get it. Yeah, guys want to have sex with you. Like, we're admiring your beauty or whatever, whatever. But you don't have to be like cocky about it. Either they're cocky about it or they're like, ultra sensitive about it. Like, oh, it's creepy. The guys, check out my beauty. It's like they can never, they can rarely ever get it right. Sometimes they get it right though. Sometimes they're like, yeah, I understand. I'm very attractive, and it's fine, and I'm just gonna take it in stride, and I'm gonna be humble about it. Like, that does happen, but it's rare, right? But the worst is when, like, as I was saying throughout this whole video, the worst is when like they assume it about you, or like it's almost like this tractor beam or this black hole of like like oh, I know you think I'm attractive, and so like, and then they like subconsciously put you at a lower level than them. So like, if you're having a conversation with them in the future or something, and like they assume that, oh, this guy's a crush on me, then they talk to you different, they treat you different, or like it's like this weird kind of, it's this weird kind of ego, and it's like, to me it's toxic. To me it's like, yeah, I don't, I'd rather you just be cool. Like, and what's funny is like these type of girls too will like, a lot of these type of girls will be like, oh yeah, I'm cool, I'm down to earth, I can like talk with the guys and stuff, and like they think that, and it's just this like big delusion. They're just like deluding themselves. Like, really, the reason why you're so confident around guys is because all the guys want to have sex with you, and like that's part of your whole, and you like that, and then like even though you like that because it's like a big ego boost, you're also looking down on these guys because truthfully, girls are not trying to chase guys that want to have sex with them. They're trying to chase the guy that ignores them, which is this big weird jujitsu move that you got to figure out. Like, oh, how can I show her that I'm not attracted to her and ignore her, like be a bad boy, and all this like weird stuff that like I used to spend years trying to do, and it works sometimes, if you could do it right, but but like I said, I wouldn't. You got to commit to it. It's like an actor with an acting role or something. It's like, just be yourself. Like, if you're just a nice guy, cool guy, whatever, or kind guy, be kind. But you can't be that around girls to get girls. For the most part, it doesn't really work. And then you'll have like girls who are like, oh yeah, that's what I really like. I just like nice guys, and da 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 da. And you're just like, and that's like a kind of, sucker move too. That's like a trap where it's like, oh, I like kind guys, I like nice guys, and what they're really saying is like, you know they're really trying to trap you into like being a kind nice guy so they can friend zone you and have power over you. It's all just foobar. It's all just messed up. And so it's like, just walk away, or just like leave them alone, like ignore them, like it's like I'm not gonna win. I'm not gonna win any way you look at it. Like, I'm not going to be, you're not going to respect me. You're going to put me in a category. You're going to think that I'm attracted to you. You're going to think that I want to have sex with you. You're going to assume that, like, you're better than me. It's like, it's all going to, it just is what it is. So, like, just forget it. Like, I'm not even going to, like, I'm not going to pay any attention to you. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to, like, have any conversations with you. Because there's not a lot going on, under the hood. Like, you're just, you're eye candy. You know what I mean? You're just an aesthetic. You're just a piece of art, and like, guys can appreciate that. I appreciate beauty. I appreciate, a woman. I like the female figure. I like the female beauty. I like the female personality. I like feminine. I like women, but what I don't like is like the ego and the arrogance and the assumptions, and then also the toxicity. I don't like all the other stuff that comes with that because of this assumed, role. And this is all just stuff that's post, what is it, 14th Amendment or whatever. It's post feminism. It's post second wave feminism. Like, this is all stuff we're suffering from kind of inherently because, we made them our equals, and this is what it is. You get you get what you get when you do what you do. So, but anyway, I think I made my point. Appreciate you guys listening. It's been Jay Lee. Peace.